Welcome to the Generic Tech Support YouTube channel. Like and subscribe for more content. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to use scripting and task scheduler to execute scripts on missed logons onto Windows. The first thing I'm going to show you is how we could set up a way to nuke Windows in the event that somebody attempts to log into your system using your username with the incorrect password 4 times. The scripts to do this will be at the Generic Tech Support website. Let's jump in. The first thing we're going to have to figure out specifically is what is the event ID of a failed authentication when you log in locally into Windows. To do this, what we're going to do is we're just going to log out of Windows and we're going to type in the wrong password on purpose once into our Windows system. Once you have something entered in there, just hit the button to authenticate. We'll see that the password is incorrect. We'll hit OK. Now authenticate correctly, so that way we could log back into the operating system. At this point, we should be able to right-click on Start and choose Event Viewer. Inside of Event Viewer, we're going to do 2 different things. The first is we're going to expand Windows logs and go to Security. Once we access Security, we should be able to do a search for Event ID 4625. 4625 is the default event ID for failed authentication locally on Windows 11. It's also the same on Windows 10, Windows 8.1, Windows 8, and Windows 7. Windows XP, I believe, is Event ID 580. If anybody knows for sure, please throw it down in the comments. Once you locate your Event ID, what you're going to want to do is right-click on Custom Views and do Create a Custom View. This is going to generate this dialog box. You're going to leave the anytime as it is and the event levels as they are and choose under Event Logs, Windows Logs, and then Security. At that point, you'll see everything else opens up to allow you to add additional information. At this point, the next thing to do is to add the event ID. So we know it's 4625, so we're going to enter that in and then hit OK. This is going to generate another dialog box. You're going to enter a name in and hit OK. On mine, I chose to add the name as Authentication Counter, as we could see here. Now you'll notice that we have account failed to log on listed here. We could see my local account name and the local host name of the machine. And then we could see the failure reason as unknown username or bad password. Now keep in mind that in Windows 10, in version 21H2 and prior, you're going to need to enable advanced auditing in order for this feature to work. To do that, I would suggest modifying local group policy. Right-click on Start and choose Run. Type in gpedit.msc and hit OK. Once Group Policy Editor opens, you'll want to specifically go to Computer Configuration, Windows Settings, Security Settings, Advanced Audit Policy Configuration, Log On, Log Off, and choose Audit Log On. Double-click on this, choose to configure, and check the box for failure. This will allow the system to generate the event ID. Now that we have our custom view created for our event ID, and we have confirmed 4625 is indeed the local event ID necessary for us to configure our script to run from, the next step is to go into our Task Scheduler. Once we're inside of Task Scheduler, we'll right-click on Task Scheduler and choose Create Task. You don't want to use the basic task. You're going to want to use the full configuration for Create Tasks. Once your task creator is created or opened, you're going to name the task something. At which point you're going to check the Run this box, whether or not user is logged on, and run with the highest privileges. Then you're going to choose Triggers. In Triggers, you're going to choose New. Hit the drop-down and choose On an Event. This is where you're going to hit the drop-down for the log. You're going to specifically look for Security Log. If we scroll all the way to the bottom, we should find it. Next, we want to choose the source. The source is Microsoft Windows Security Auditing. And lastly, we're going to enter in the event ID of 4625. At this point, we'll hit OK. We'll see the trigger is on an event, and we'll see the event information added here. Next, we're going to choose Actions and hit New. Under Actions, we're going to start a program. Now, you would think you would want to add the script that you're going to find on the Generic Tech Support website in here, but you're not. We're going to actually launch PowerShell itself. Now, you have a choice. You could choose Browse and actually browse to the location where PowerShell exists, but if you don't know where it exists, you could hit the Start button and type in PowerShell. Then right-click on PowerShell itself and choose Open File Location. At which point what you're going to do is right-click again and do Open File Location. Now that we're at the file location where PowerShell.exe exists, we could right-click it and choose Copy as Path, and then paste the path into the location listed here under our action for start a program. Once you have that data entered, the next thing you're going to need to do is add the argument. And quite frankly, it's probably easier for me to just show you inside of a notepad than inside of the actual argument location. But your argument's going to be hyphen execution policy space bypass space hyphen file, and then the path to the script that you get from the Generic Tech Support website. So the PS1 file or the PowerShell file is the path that gets added as an argument inside of the task scheduler location here. And once you have it entered, you just hit OK. Now that we have our trigger added, as well as our action, we can click on condition and make sure that we have everything set off. We want to make sure that this script runs no matter what. We want to allow it to be run on demand. If we decide we want to nuke the system ourselves, we want to make sure we have the ability to do it to run on demand. And we want to set to run a new instance in parallel in the event that something's already running or chewing up the resource and it doesn't execute correctly. By default, history is disabled. And quite frankly, it doesn't matter if you have history turned on or not, because as soon as this executes, it's going to nuke the system and it makes no difference. So now that this is set, we could take a look and we see it here. I named this particular one wrong password fool. When you click OK to finish this out, it will prompt you for your username and password. Obviously, use the correct username and password with administrative rights on the system. The system will use that to execute the scripts, which will nuke the system in the event that the password is entered 4 times incorrectly on the local system. Finally, let's take a look at the scripting. Now, anybody that's followed this channel for a while knows I always use ctools. That's the location where I have all my scripts. So if we go in here and we specifically edit in Notepad the task configuration, close this out, no longer necessary, and we scroll up here, you're going to see that realistically the only things that need to be configured here are going to be the name of the batch file that you want to execute after this script runs for the 4 attempts of authentication that fail. And you can run whatever you want in here. I chose to run the thing that kills and wipes Windows. So it'll wipe all the directories that I have configured on my system, as well as all the Windows-based operating system locations and all of the profile data that exists on the system. So that way, in the event that somebody does eventually figure out how to get into the system, quite frankly, there's nothing left on it anyway. Now let's take a look at our killwindows.bat. Now you'll note that this already exists on the Generic Tech Support website. This is a script that's written to literally nuke Windows, and it encrypts Windows with a BitLocker encryption key before it nukes it. So, I mean, the reality is once this runs, you're not going to get back into the system, and you're going to have to hard reformat the system to actually get it to work, because it even wipes the recovery partition. All right, guys, so since this is all set up now, let's just log out of the system and incorrectly attempt to log in 4 times. All right, so incorrect number 1. Incorrect number 2. Incorrect number 3. Incorrect number 4. Now what you don't see right now is in the background, the system's encrypting itself. It's also taking ownership of all of the files and structure that exist on the actual system. And it is deleting everything out of the profile configuration, any applications like Microsoft Word, Microsoft Office, anything that exists on that system that was under the profile is being wiped. Once that finishes, what will happen is the system will reboot itself. If the user, however, attempts to log into the system while the system is in the process of doing all of this stuff, they won't be able to get into the system. Even if they have the correct password after the 4 attempts, the system at this point is already in the midst of actually encryption as well as deletion of all the files and structure. So eventually what will happen is the system will BSOD and it will reboot itself. Much like what we're seeing happen right now on the screen. And this is really how you could set up protection against anybody that you don't want accessing your system. And there you go, guys. I don't know if you saw that, but we just BSOD'd. We're clearing memory again, so the system is actually dumping memory. It's going to boot again, but it's going to blue screen again. So with the magic of VMware, we're back in that same image. We just reverted the snapshot. But I'd be curious what you guys think. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Is there a use for this? Do you find this interesting? What else would you like to see from a scheduled task configuration using PowerShell or even Batch? Definitely let me know down in the comments. And once again, I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you for watching the Generic Tech Support YouTube channel. Find the content of this video at https://generictechsupport.com/#channel.